The night on the alien world was silent, almost too silent. Strange stars burned above the dark sky, and the forest below was alive with shadows. Tall trees with glowing leaves reached into the air, and mist curled around the roots like living smoke. Ryan, a human soldier stranded after his ship crash, moved carefully through the forest. His boots pressed into soft soil, and every sound seemed louder than it should. He was tired, hungry, and cautious. He had walked for hours, searching for water and a safe place to rest, when he heard something that froze his blood. It was not just a cry. It was a scream filled with fear, pain, and desperation. The sound echoed between the trees, sharp enough to pierce his chest. Ryan stopped and gripped his weapon. His instincts told him to stay away, but something deep inside refused to let the scream go unanswered. He moved quickly, his eyes darting between the glowing vines and shifting shadows. His heart pounded faster with every step. As he pushed through thick branches, he reached a clearing. There, under the strange light of the alien moon, a horrifying scene unfolded. A massive beast stood over a small figure. The beast was skin was rough like stone, its body larger than any earthly predator. 4 glowing eyes burned red in the darkness, and sharp claws dug into the ground, cutting deep scars in the earth. Its mouth opened wide, lined with rows of jagged teeth dripping with saliva. The roar it released shook Ryan's bones, and beneath the beast was a girl. She was not human. Her skin glowed faintly, pale silver under the moon, and strange patterns of light pulsed across her arms as though her veins carried fire instead of blood. Her long hair clung to her face, and her wide eyes were filled with terror. She struggled, trying to crawl backward, but the beast cornered her, ready to strike. For a single moment, Ryan froze. His mind screamed at him, "This is not your fight. You don't even know who she is. Walk away, and you live." But his heart refused. With a sudden shout, Ryan raised his weapon and charged. The beast turned its glowing eyes toward him, its roar cutting through the clearing like thunder. It launched forward, claws raised. Ryan rolled to the side just as the ground exploded where he had stood. He fired his weapon. 3 sharp blasts of blue energy lit the night. The shots struck the beast's side, making it stagger, but not fall. The alien girl gasped, her eyes locked on him, as if shocked that anyone would fight for her. The beast turned back, fury burning in its glowing eyes. It lunged again, and this time Ryan barely dodged. One claw ripped across his arm, tearing his armor and drawing blood. The pain burned, but Ryan didn't stop. He swung his blade and slashed across the beast's shoulder, the strike leaving a glowing wound. The monster roared louder, shaking the forest. Birds scattered into the night, and the trees trembled. The girl crawled backward, trying to escape, but the beast's focus stayed on Ryan. Its heavy steps crushed the earth as it circled, waiting for him to make a mistake. Ryan breathed hard, sweat dripping from his forehead. Every second he fought, he wondered, why am I doing this? But every time he looked at the terrified girl, the answer was clear. He could not leave her to die. The beast attacked again, jaws snapping, claws tearing. Through the air, Ryan rolled, fired, and struck again, but the creature kept coming. It was a storm of teeth and rage, and each blow pushed him closer to the edge of defeat. Then, for one critical second, the beast lifted itself to strike with both claws. Its chest was exposed. Ryan saw his chance. He charged, shouting with every ounce of strength left in his body. He drove his blade deep into the beast's chest, right between its glowing eyes. The blade sank deep, and the beast screamed. A sound so loud the air seemed to crack. It staggered backward, thrashing violently, trying to rip the weapon free. Energy sparked from the wound, glowing brighter and brighter until, with one final roar, the beast collapsed. The ground shook as it hit the earth, its glowing eyes dimming to black. Silence returned to the forest. Ryan fell to his knees, chest heaving, his weapon still burning with heat. His body ached, his arm bled, but he was alive. Slowly, he turned toward the girl. She was trembling, her silver skin glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her wide eyes never left him, filled with shock and disbelief. She looked as if she wanted to speak, but could not. Ryan slowly reached out his hand, his voice low. "It's over. You're safe now." For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, with shaking hands, she took his arm and pulled herself up. She was weak, her steps unsteady, but her eyes never left his. The silence between them was heavy, almost louder than the beast's roar. Ryan knew this was only the beginning. Something about this girl was important, too important, and the way she looked at him, as though he was more than just a stranger, made him uneasy. The forest was quiet again, but Ryan's heart told him danger was not gone. It was only waiting, and somewhere in the shadows, unseen eyes watched. The beast lay still, its giant body sinking into the ground, and the forest grew silent once more. The glowing trees swayed softly, their light flickering in the mist, as if the land itself had witnessed the battle and was now holding its breath. Ryan's chest still rose and fell with heavy breaths. His arm throbbed with pain where the claw had cut him, but his eyes were fixed only on the alien girl. She stood a few steps away, trembling, her silver skin shining faintly in the moonlight. Her long hair, tangled and wet with sweat, clung to her face. Her glowing patterns pulsed faintly, like the heartbeat of some strange light inside her. Ryan had seen many alien species before during his missions, but never anyone like her. She looked fragile, delicate, almost breakable, yet something about her made the air feel heavier. "Are you hurt?" Ryan asked softly, his voice breaking the silence. The girl did not answer. Her wide eyes stayed on him, filled with confusion and fear. Her lips moved slightly, as if she wanted to speak, but no sound came out. Instead, she simply stepped back, her glowing feet pressing into the soil, leaving faint traces of light where she touched the ground. Ryan slowly lowered his weapon. He didn't want to frighten her more. "It's okay," he said. "You're safe. The beast is gone." Still, no reply. Her silence pressed against him, louder than any scream. It was not the silence of someone unwilling to talk. It was the silence of someone who carried a secret too heavy to speak. Ryan pulled a small flask from his belt and held it out to her. "Water." The girl hesitated, staring at it as though she had never seen such a thing before. Slowly, she reached out with trembling fingers and touched it. For a brief second, their hands brushed, and Ryan felt a strange warmth spread through his arm. Not the warmth of heat, but something alive. Something that made his heartbeat quicken. She lifted the flask to her lips, sipped, and then looked at him again. Her glowing eyes shimmered like liquid light, still watching him with quiet intensity. Ryan sighed. He sat down near the fallen beast, setting his weapon on the ground. The exhaustion was crawling into his body, but his mind refused to rest. He studied her carefully. "Who are you?" he asked. This time her lips pressed together tightly. She shook her head, almost in denial, then looked away toward the trees. Ryan frowned. She wasn't just some random traveler. The way the beast had hunted her, the way her body glowed, the silence she carried, it all meant something. He wanted to ask again, but her fragile form stopped him. She looked like if he pushed her even a little, she would break. Instead, he tried another way. "My name is Ryan," he said calmly. "Ryan Hale, human." Her eyes flickered, as if the word human carried meaning for her. Her head tilted slightly, but still, she said nothing. The night stretched on. Ryan built a small fire with broken branches, the flames flickering against the glowing trees. The warmth spread through the clearing, chasing away the chill of the alien mist. The girl sat a short distance away, hugging her knees to her chest. Her gaze locked on the flames. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the crackling fire and the distant call of strange creatures filled the silence. Ryan bandaged his wounded arm, his movements slow, his eyes occasionally drifting to her. Every time, he found her staring back at him and blinking, quiet. Almost as though she was studying him just as much as he studied her. Finally. As the fire burned lower, Ryan leaned back and let out a tired breath. "You don't trust me," he murmured. "I get it, but if I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't have fought that beast." At those words, the girl's eyes softened. Her lips parted slightly. For the first time, she whispered something, but it was too quiet to hear. Ryan leaned forward. "What did you say?" But she quickly looked away, her face hidden by her hair. Her voice had been so faint, it could have been the wind. Yet Ryan was certain she had spoken. The thought lingered. In his mind, like a shadow, he didn't push her. Instead, he kept watch, scanning the forest with sharp eyes. Something gnawed at him, an uneasy feeling that they weren't alone. The way the beast had attacked, the way she had been cornered, felt planned, not random. The girl suddenly shivered. Her glowing patterns pulsed faster, as though reacting to something unseen. She hugged herself tighter and glanced nervously into the darkness. Ryan noticed. "What is it? Do you sense something?" Her lips pressed tight again, but her eyes told the truth. She was afraid, not of him, not of the forest, but of something else, something coming closer. Ryan gripped his weapon, scanning. The trees, the fire crackled, shadows danced, but he saw nothing. Still, the feeling grew stronger. The forest was not empty. The girl leaned closer to the flames, her body trembling. Then, with sudden motion, she reached out and touched Ryan's injured arm. The moment her glowing hand brushed his wound, warmth spread through him again. His pain dulled, and when he looked, he saw the bleeding slow, the torn skin faintly glowing. As it began to mend, Ryan stared in shock. She pulled her hand away quickly, as if ashamed, but the truth was clear. She was no ordinary alien. She had power, and now Ryan knew her silence was not weakness. It was protection. She was hiding something that others would kill to control. The fire flickered lower, and Ryan's unease grew heavier. Somewhere out there in the mist, unseen eyes were watching. He could feel it in his bones. The girl finally looked at him again, her lips trembling as if she wanted to speak. Then, barely above a whisper, she let out one word: "Chosen." Ryan's blood ran cold. Before he could ask what she meant, a sound echoed in the forest. A sharp crack, like a branch snapping but heavier. Closer, someone or something was hunting them. The forest grew heavier with silence after the sharp crack echoed through the trees. Ryan's grip on his weapon tightened, and his heartbeat quickened. He had fought beasts before, but this silence was different. It wasn't nature, it was a warning. Someone was out there. The alien girl sat close to the fire, her silver skin glowing faintly, her eyes darting into the mist. Ryan could see the fear in her trembling hands. She whispered one word, chosen, and then fell back into silence. Ryan crouched beside her. Chosen, what does that mean? Why me? His voice was firm but low, trying not to draw attention from whatever lurked nearby. The girl looked at him, her glowing patterns pulsing faster as if her body responded to fear. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then, in a fragile voice, she whispered again, "You saved me. That means it begins." Ryan frowned. Begins? What begins? She shook her head, her hair falling across her face, and for a second it seemed she might retreat into silence again. But then her eyes locked with his, glowing like liquid fire, and she whispered words that made his skin crawl. "My people are dying." Ryan's breath caught. He had expected something, but not this. She leaned closer, her voice trembling but clear enough to hear this time. "They are being hunted. The beasts are not natural, they are sent. The soldiers, the shadows, the death that follows. It is all because of me. Because I carry something they want." Her voice broke, and Ryan felt the weight in her words. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a target. Ryan's soldier instincts kicked in. "Who's hunting you? And why would they send monsters after you?" The girl hesitated, her lips trembling. Then she whispered, "Because I hold the seed." Ryan blinked. "The seed," she nodded slowly. "A source of power, a living memory of my people. If it is taken, the galaxy will burn. If it is destroyed, my world dies forever." Her voice dropped lower, almost as if she feared the trees themselves could hear her. "I was chosen to protect it, and now you are bound to it too." Ryan's blood ran cold. He hadn't asked for this. He had only acted on instinct, trying to save someone in danger. But now, without warning, his fate was tangled in something far bigger than he could imagine. Before he could answer, the forest around them shifted. A low growl echoed from the shadows, and the girl flinched. Ryan leapt to his feet, scanning the darkness. The fire flickered weakly, its light barely pushing against the mist. Then he saw them. Not beasts this time, shapes. Armored figures moving silently between the trees. Their bodies were tall and sharp, their helmets glowing with faint red light. Alien soldiers, hunters. Ryan's heart hammered in his chest. They were closing in. The girl clutched his arm suddenly, her grip surprisingly strong. "If they find us, they will take the seed. They will tear it from me." Her voice was desperate now. "You must not let them." Ryan looked into her glowing eyes, and in that moment he understood. Saving her from the beast had been only the first step. Now the real danger was here, intelligent, relentless, and armed. "Stay behind me," Ryan muttered. He extinguished the fire with a swift kick of dirt, plunging them into near darkness. The mist swallowed them whole, and the forest grew colder. The soldiers moved closer, their glowing visors slicing through the fog. Ryan crouched low, pulling the girl with him. He moved quietly, guiding her through the thick roots and vines, trying to avoid the hunter's gaze. But the girl's glow betrayed them. Even as she tried to hide, the faint silver light pulsed from her skin. Ryan cursed under his breath. They were too exposed. Suddenly, a beam of red light cut across the clearing. A voice, mechanical and cold, spoke in an alien tongue, but Ryan didn't need to understand the words. The meaning was clear. They had been found. Run, Ryan barked. The girl hesitated only for a second before she sprinted beside him, her bare feet glowing against the ground. Energy blasts hissed through the air, striking trees and sending sparks into the mist. The forest roared with chaos as the hunters closed in. Ryan fired back, his shots lighting the night, but there were too many of them. For every soldier that fell, 2 more appeared. He led the girl through twisting paths, deeper into the dark. But he knew they couldn't keep this up forever. They stumbled into a narrow ravine, rocks glowing faintly with strange markings. The girl pressed her hand against one of the stones, and suddenly the patterns lit up brighter, opening a hidden path. Inside, she whispered urgently. Ryan didn't question it. They rushed through the glowing passage, and the stone sealed, shut behind them, plunging them into silence. In the faint glow of the walls, Ryan caught his breath. His arms still throbbed, and his lungs burned, but his mind was sharper than ever. He turned to the girl. "You need to tell me everything," he said firmly. "No more silence. If I'm risking my life for you, I need to know what I'm fighting for." The girl's eyes shimmered with light, and her lips parted. For the first time, her whisper was not weak, was steady, almost powerful. "You are fighting for more than me. You are fighting for humanity too, because if they take the seed, Earth will be next." Ryan froze, her words hitting him like a strike to the chest. Earth, his home, the place he had sworn to protect. Suddenly, this wasn't just about her people. This was about his people too. The truth burned inside him now. The alien girl wasn't just a stranger in need. She was the key to something far greater, and her whisper had already changed his fate. Ryan clenched his fists, his voice low but certain. "Then we fight, together." And in the silence of the glowing cave, the girl finally gave him her name, Liara. The hidden stone passage glowed faintly, sealing the outside world behind them. Ryan pressed his back against the wall, his weapon ready, listening for sounds beyond the stone. For a moment, there was silence, no growls, no footsteps, no alien voices. Only his own heartbeat filled his ears. Liara stood close, her silver skin glowing gently in the dim light. Her eyes were fixed on him, filled with both fear and something deep. She had told him her name, and in that single act, something had shifted. She wasn't just a mystery anymore. She was a person, but danger was still close. Ryan pushed himself off the wall and scanned the glowing tunnel ahead. Strange markings pulsed faintly along the walls, as though alive. "Where does this lead?" he asked. Liara touched one of the glowing lines. "The old paths. My people used them long ago to move unseen. But the hunters, they may know them too." Ryan grimaced. That meant there was no safety here, only delay. "Then we keep moving. If they find another entrance, we'll be trapped." Liara nodded. Silently, her bare feet made almost no sound as they moved through the twisting tunnels, the glowing patterns lighting the way. The air was colder here, carrying a strange hum, like distant voices hidden inside the stone. Minutes turned into hours, so it felt. Ryan's muscles ached and his injured arm throbbed, but he kept pushing forward. His soldier's instincts screamed at him, "Don't stop. Don't let them catch you." Then, without warning, Liara froze. Her glowing patterns pulsed rapidly, and she grabbed Ryan's arm. "They are here," she whispered. Ryan tightened his grip on his weapon and scanned the tunnel. The faint hum grew louder, and shadows flickered against the walls. Voices echoed, deep and mechanical. The hunters had found another way inside. Suddenly, Red beams of light cut through the mist, and armored figures stepped into view. "Run," Ryan shouted. Liara sprinted beside him, her glowing feet leaving faint trails on the stone floor. Energy. Blasts hissed through the tunnel, striking the walls and shaking dust loose. The hunters were faster than before, their heavy steps pounding closer. Ryan fired back, his blasts lighting the narrow tunnel, striking one of the soldiers. The alien fell with a crash, its armor sparking, but more poured in behind. The chase twisted through the tunnels like a nightmare. Every corner brought more danger, every turn felt tighter. Liara guided them with quick gestures, leading Ryan through hidden cracks and narrow paths only she seemed to know. But the hunters were relentless. Ryan's lungs burned, his legs ached, but he refused to slow down. He could feel Lyra's hand gripping his sleeve as she pulled him toward a split in the tunnel. "This way," she whispered, her voice urgent. They slid through a narrow gap, barely fitting. The walls scraped Ryan's armor, sparks flying as energy blasts struck behind them. A deafening roar shook the passage as the hunters tried to force their way in. For a moment, they were trapped. Ryan pressed his back against the stone, raising his weapon, ready for the fight. But Liara stepped forward. Her glowing hands touched. The stone and the walls shifted. The passage itself seemed to come alive, sealing shut behind them. Ryan stared in disbelief. You can control this place." Lyra's breathing was heavy, but her eyes burned with quiet strength. "Not control, but the old paths know me. They remember my people." Ryan felt a chill crawl down his spine. Whatever this girl was, she wasn't just carrying the seed. She was connected to something far older, far more powerful. The ground trembled suddenly, pulling his thoughts back to danger. The hunters were forcing their way through, blasting the tunnels apart. "We need to move," Ryan said sharply. They ran again, deeper into the shadows, until the tunnel finally opened into a vast underground cavern. The ceiling stretched high. Above, glowing vines hanging down like stars. Pools of glowing water reflected the light, and strange winged creatures stirred at their arrival. For a moment, Ryan almost forgot the danger. The place was hauntingly beautiful, like stepping into another world, but the sound of pursuit reminded him there was no time to admire. Leora's voice trembled. "The hunters will not stop. They will follow us until we are found." Ryan glanced at her, his jaw set. "Then we don't let them find us. We fight smarter." But before he could explain, the cavern shook. From one of the far tunnels, more armored soldiers poured in. Their red visors glowed in the mist as they advanced, weapons raised. Ryan pulled Liara behind a stone pillar, returning fire. The blasts lit the cavern, echoing like thunder. The hunters spread out, their heavy armor clanking against the stone. Ryan fired again, dropping one, but the others kept closing in. Liara pressed her glowing hands against the pillar, her body trembling. The stone vibrated under her touch, cracks glowing with light. With a sudden flash, the ground split open, creating a wall of jagged rock between them and the soldiers. Ryan stared in awe, his voice rough. "You just saved our lives." Liara turned to him, her face pale. "No, I only bought us time." The cavern shook again as the hunters blasted through the barrier. Dust and stone rained from the ceiling. Ryan pulled Liara close, his voice fierce. "Then we use that time. We run until they can't." They darted toward another tunnel on the far side of the cavern, the sounds of destruction echoing behind them. As they disappeared into the darkness, Ryan glanced back one last time. The hunters were relentless, tearing through stone and flame, just to catch them, and for the first time, Ryan realized something that chilled him more than the chase itself. They weren't just after Liara. They were after him too, because now he was bound to her fate, and in the shadows of the alien world, there was no turning back. The tunnel finally opened into the night. Ryan and Liara stumbled out of the cavern mouth and onto a cliff edge high above the alien forest. The sky stretched wide, stars burning cold and distant. Wind whipped across the cliff, carrying the cries of unseen creatures, but they had no time to breathe. Behind them, the hunters poured from the tunnel, their glowing visors cutting through the mist. Red lights flashed in the darkness, weapons raised, footsteps pounding closer. They had tracked them all this way, and now there was nowhere left to run. Ryan pulled Liara behind a jagged rock and scanned the cliff. On one side, the hunters advanced. On the other, an endless drop into blackness. There was no escape, no cover, just one last stand. His jaw tightened. Looks like we make our final fight here. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, her voice trembling, but steady. If they take the seed from me, everything ends. Not only my people, yours too. Ryan's heart hammered. He thought of Earth, of his home, of faces he hadn't seen in years. Suddenly, this wasn't about survival anymore. This was about protecting the future itself. He gripped his weapon and looked at her. Then we don't let them win, no matter what. The hunters spread across the cliff, their armor gleaming under the alien moon. Their leader stepped forward, taller than the rest, his red visor burning with cold fire. In his hands, he held a massive blade of crackling energy. His voice echoed, harsh and mechanical. Give us the girl, and die quickly. Liara flinched, but Ryan stepped in front of her, his stance firm. Not happening. The leader tilted, his head almost amused. One human against us. Foolish. Ryan raised his weapon. Not one human, two. Lyra's glow flared, her patterns pulsing like fire spreading across her skin. She stepped forward, her hand brushing Ryan's shoulder. A warmth surged through him, stronger than before. His pain faded, his vision sharpened, and his strength returned like a flood. He realized what she was doing. She was giving him her power. The hunters charged. Energy blasts ripped through the air, lighting the cliff like a storm. Ryan fired back, each shot sharper and faster than before. He moved with impossible speed, his reflexes heightened by Lyra's gift. His blade cut through armored soldiers, sparks flying, roars echoing. Liara raised her hands, and the ground itself answered her. The cliff shook, cracks glowing as jagged stone spears shot upward, impaling hunters in bursts of light. Her voice rose in a strange chant, ancient and powerful, as if calling the planet itself to fight with her. But the hunters kept coming. Ryan ducked under a strike, rolled, and drove his blade into another soldier's chest. He pulled it free, turned, and fired into the leader's ranks. For every one that fell, more advanced, their visors burning like endless fire. The leader himself strode forward, his massive blade crackling with red energy. With a roar, he swung. At Ryan, the clash was thunder. Sparks flew as Ryan's weapon met the aliens. The force nearly knocked him off the cliff, but he held firm, teeth gritted, muscles straining. The leader pushed harder, his voice like steel. You cannot win. She belongs to us. The seed belongs to us. Ryan's eyes burned with fury. She doesn't belong to anyone. With a surge of strength, fueled by Lyra's glow, he shoved back and drove his blade upward. The strike pierced through the leader's armor, bursting with light. The alien roared, stumbling backward, sparks exploding across his chest. But even wounded, the leader swung again. The massive blade cut across Ryan's side, sending him crashing to the ground. His weapon slipped from his hand. Pain exploded. Through his body, the hunters cheered, their leader raising his blade for the final strike. But Lyra stepped forward. Her glow became blinding, her body shining like a living star. She spread her arms wide, and the entire cliff began to tremble. "No more," she whispered. The ground split open, light pouring from the cracks. The hunters staggered, their balance breaking. Lyra raised her hands higher, and a wave of pure energy exploded outward, sweeping across the cliff. The hunters were thrown back, their armor shattering, their visors dimming. One by one, they fell, their bodies crumbling into the mist. Only the leader remained, staggering but alive. His blade raised again, ready to strike Lyra. Ryan forced himself to his feet, blood dripping, vision fading. With one final burst of strength, he grabbed his fallen weapon and hurled it with all his might. The blade struck true, piercing the leader's chest. The alien froze, his visor flickering, then collapsed with a roar that shook the night. Silence fell. The cliff was littered with broken armor and glowing cracks. The hunters were gone. Ryan dropped to his knees, his strength spent. Lyra rushed to him, her glowing hands pressing against his wound. Warmth spread through him again, dulling the pain. But he knew it wasn't just her power keeping him alive. It was her will. Her voice was soft, trembling, but filled with emotion. "You should have left me. You should have run," Ryan managed. A weak smile. "Not my style." For a moment they sat in silence, the wind brushing against them, the stars burning above. Then Lyra leaned closer, her glowing eyes meeting his. "You are not just human anymore," she whispered. "You are bound to me, to the seed, to my people's fate." Ryan's heart pounded. He didn't know what that meant. Not fully, but he felt the weight of her words. His life had changed forever. Then, softer still, she whispered words that cut deeper than any blade. "I belong with you." The night stretched quiet around them, but Ryan knew it was not the end. The hunters would return. More would come. The galaxy itself might soon turn against them, but for now he had saved her, and her whisper had changed everything.